I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown, and happy holidays. And because it's in the holiday season, these sort of guilds have been saying all their stuff, but with the shortened Oscar season, we're looking at less than 2 weeks, or I guess no, 3 weeks now until the sort of Oscar nominations come out. So I'm going through a lot of the technical categories, giving you my thoughts. Ultimately, I have my final Oscar predictions video, but that won't go as in-depth as I do here, and a lot of times especially as we get later on, my nominations in these videos oftentimes are just my final nominations, although I do sort of like to give room for upsets and things like that. But this is a big design-filled episode. So still going to start off the top of the show talking about my rising and falling movies, talking about some of those holiday movies that you can be seeing and how those will affect the Oscar race, as well as looking at best makeup and hairstyling, best production design, and best costume design. I found some really interesting things this year that I didn't realize in previous years that will sort of dictate and understand your nominations, especially in a year where costume design and production design are kind of different this year. So stay tuned for that. But jumping into my rising movies, I'm going to go with The Joker. This is a movie that it had some mixed critical response. We weren't sure how it's going to do. It's a comic book movie. It's a little bit weird. People have been really enjoying it. It's a $1 billion movie. It's a huge hit. People have been very disturbed and moved by it, and has shown with the technical support. It's not only has someone like Todd Phillips gotten for the Golden Globes director nomination, but a lot of these guilds, whether it be sound editing, whether it be costume design, and art directors guilds, these are some of these. This movie has sort of been showing up the same way The Irishman and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has. There's a lot of technical support for this movie. You have the acting support with Joaquin Phoenix. So I think this movie is definitely rising in a lot of my estimations in terms of the best picture, in terms of best director. So that really helps in general getting in a lot of those technical nominations. And don't be surprised if Joker gets 7 possible nominations come Oscar night. It's very possible. And I also have a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, similar to Joker, sort of has been getting in everywhere it needs to be, and is the only one out of everything so far that hasn't had anything hit it really hard. Irishman, River has Robert De Niro not getting in everywhere. Parasite, of course, has the challenge of being a foreign film, but that's been doing well. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has just been getting everything, love across the board. And right now I'm predicting to do something like crazy, like 12 nominations, which is, of the tier of a Titanic or a La La Land. So this is going to be a huge, huge movie, and that really helps the chances for Best Picture. And then jumping into some of my falling movies, I'm going to start off with, I guess, the 2 sort of big box office movies that are coming out Christmas. Cats. It surprisingly did not make the shortlist for Best Original Song, so that may be its only chances. I think some people think it's going to be good for visual effects, which is a possibility, of course, but right now not getting for song is really hurting that movie and will hurt that movie's chances overall, so therefore it may not get any Oscar nominations. We also have Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, which, while doing well at the box office, has these mixed critical reviews, one of the worst reviewed Star Wars movies of all time. People are really sort of divided on it, and people who don't like it really don't like it, and that's really going to hurt its chances in terms of potentially, it's the final Star Wars movie in the saga, so let's do a Best Picture run. That's going to be very, very hard to do. That being said, I still think it's going to get in a couple of the nominations, but it has missed out on a couple of guilds, and because of the shortened race and because of the mixed critical response, I'm not sure if people are going to jump out of the theaters and definitely watch it to see this saga. There's not a lot of hype necessarily behind the movie. That being said, I still think that it will get a couple nominations. And then I also want to mention Little Woman, just because it's sort of been missing out on all these guilds, which I've been talking about before, and it has really just fallen drastically over these past few weeks. So make sure to update your predictions and maybe knock Little Woman a couple places down in some categories. So jumping over to my makeup and hairstyling predictions, my first pick is going to go to Bombshell, and I just want to mention that this is actually the first year where Makeup and Hairstyling Guild will have 5 nominees. For some reason, for the past 20 years, there's only been 3 nominees for this category, whereas every other category, has been 5, and then of course Best Picture a possible 10. So I don't know why it's been doing that, but I'm glad we get more films to be nominated, so that's why my predictions will be 5 instead of the usual 3. And my first pick is still going to be Bombshell, and I think ultimately the eventual winner. This is a movie that we have seen industry support for from the SAGs. It very much fits this mold of the past 2, previous Oscar makeup winners. If the past 2 makeup winners tell us anything, it tells us that Bombshell is probably going to win. Because last year you have Vice from 2018, a Best Picture contender, actor-driven, and a movie that uses prosthetics to turn their actors into real-life people, most notably Christian Bale for Dick Cheney. The year before that, we have The Darkest Hour, another Best Picture nominee. It was also an actor-driven movie with Gary Oldman eventually getting that Best Best Lead Actor Oscar. And what did he look like? Just like Winston Churchill. They transformed him. It wasn't Gary Oldman. It was now Winston Churchill using heavy prosthetics. What have they done here? They've taken Charlize Theron and turned her into Megyn Kelly. They've also done similar things, less so with Margot Robbie and Nicole Kidman, really just that sort of main Megyn Kelly, Charlize Theron turning into Megyn Kelly, that transformation. But when you watch the movie, everyone that's seen it, including myself, you look at it, and even though I don't know Megyn Kelly too well, you look at pictures of her, you look at Charlize in the film, and it's crazy how similar they look. It's so identical. So if Bombshell potentially gets in for that 8th slot or that 9th slot, the way I'm predicting it for Best Picture, as I am right now, that will really help it in terms of the past. The sort of past tells the future in a lot of ways. So if Vice, getting that a prosthetic-heavy makeup movie, wins the Best Makeup Award, The Darkest Hour, prosthetic-heavy actor-driven movie, gets the win eventually, I think Bombshell will definitely get the nomination and definitely sort of get that win ultimately. My next pick is going to go to Rocketman. I think Taron Egerton and Ellen John, like I've been saying, have been really campaigning. I think it's going to pay off, particularly in makeup and hairstyling, because it's a film that they enjoy enough that it will sort of get swept up in this. Plus, I think a lot of people will conflate things like costume design or production design a lot of times with makeup, because in the film there are so many different costumes. There's these theatrical performances, and a lot of ways you have to show Elton John through multiple stages in his life. You know, you have him when he's a young boy, and then of course Taron sort of being drugged up Elton, and sort of the effects it have on him versus the sober Elton, and sort of that struggle within the film. And I think that that this sort of technical aspect will push them over the edge. Oh, and it also tied with Bombshell with 3 nominations at the Makeup and Hairstyling Guild Awards. So that's really showing the sort of strength of this movie, and it's been getting in a lot of places. I think people really enjoy this movie, and it will get in some of these technical. This also got a couple nominations at the Makeup and Hairstyling Guild Awards. Of course, has that iconic sort of makeup, Joker makeup that is different from Heath Ledger's, but it's still sort of its own. And I think that people will sort of associate that with why they like the movie, which is the design of the movie. And I think that people will sort of associate the costumes and the makeup and how everything was sort of designed in the movie. And I think a Joker will really help with that, particularly, of course, the makeup. And then my next pick is going to be Judy. Now, this actually didn't get in, surprisingly, at the Makeup and Hairstyling Guild Awards, which is why I'm putting it down a couple of notches. But that being said, that maybe sort of can be written off or explained by the fact that the makeup designer is not a guild member. So that's something that we want to watch out for. Not that it was not possible for them to nominate him. Maybe there's a little bit of a bias that can be written off. Judy's a film that really only has Renee Zellweger in terms of the amount of love she's been getting. So maybe the film isn't as beloved, but it's more beloved than something maybe like Close to the Wife. It is in the conversation. Of course, Renee's playing a real life person in Judy Garland. So the negative could be is that she doesn't really look exactly like her. They didn't do prosthetics to her, so people will say, well, the makeup was bad because they didn't make it look exactly like her. Or some people are going to say, wow, it does make her sort of seem close to it. Or, of course, you have the short hair and sort of the lifeless, almost pale skin, especially as she's, relying on these drugs later in her life and sort of her battles with addiction that you see throughout the film in terms of her sort of last tour. That's a lot of an testament, of course, to Renee's performance, but also the makeup done in the film. So I still think it will get in because I think the people in the Academy do like the film, and I think that's sort of a noticeable and obvious thing where they sort of turned Renee into Judy in a certain sense, actor-driven movie, therefore get the makeup. That's what I think there. And then my final slot, I'm going to go a little bit extravagant, a little bit off the board. I'm going to go with Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. This is, out of all my nominees so far, and even some of the possible contenders, they're sort of tame and mild. They're not necessarily over the top, these extravagant kind of effects that we've seen, aside from maybe, the Megyn Kelly transformation, which is why I want to go with Maleficent here. My sort of main concerns being that the first one didn't get in, and now it's from Rick Baker, so, maybe that's a little bit that they won't sort of support the second one. But, that was a year when there was only 3 nominees. Now there's 5. And the other concern would be that some people wouldn't have seen the movie. I mean, this did pretty well at the box office. It wasn't a huge success the same way Maleficent 1 was. But that being said, the Makeup Guild has always been really fantastic when seeing movies. Last year, they nominated Border, which is a weird foreign film that didn't even make the shortlist for Best Foreign Film at the Oscars. They've also, nominated, of course, The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared. I mean, movies that nobody has heard of, they decide to nominate because of the makeup. So they do go out of their way to watch movies specifically for the makeup and reward the movies for their makeup instead of maybe, say, the quality of the film. And this is a film that, of course, I think has kind of an iconic look with the very pronounced cheekbones and the incredible horns. My understanding is that some of the horns are CGI, but some of them I think are still real. Of course, the makeup of the pronounced cheekbones that Angelina Jolie has, and then of course all the sort of fantastical creatures. I think that this is sort of one that you can go off the edge with and still feel a little bit confident because of how different it is and because of how noticeable it is. And the Makeup Guild will go all the way to see movies that have been shortlisted or have been have great makeup, even if the movie's not that great. Therefore, I feel confident relatively in Maleficent, Mistress, Evil. Some possible contenders. First being Dolemite's My Name. You have, so maybe the support would be that it's about filmmaking, so there's a makeup artist there, so they'll sort of feel represented there, but they don't really transform Eddie Murphy into Dolemite. He doesn't look exactly like him. He just looks like Eddie Murphy with maybe a wig, so it's not a huge transformation. I think that people just won't realize a lot of the makeup, and maybe we'll think of something like a costume design, and the film is liked, which maybe will push it over the edge. I'm just not 100% sure. This is not a guild that just nominates movies that they love. They do try to nominate things and even reward things, something like a Suicide Squad. They didn't want to give it to Star Trek Beyond because Star Trek Beyond was the quote-unquote better film. They wanted to reward Suicide Squad because it was the best makeup. And that's what they're really looking for. So when looking and judging at this category, you want to see noticeable makeup, you want to see well done makeup. And I think Dolemite Is My Name doesn't have that transformative element that, say, something like Bombshell has, and maybe it'll fly under the radar. Similar situation to another possible contender being Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If people really think this is a huge contender, it could get 14 nominations. But if you're not a 100% believer in it, like I am in terms of it maybe winning Best Picture, it may sort of slip out on a couple of these categories, including, I think, in this category, Makeup and Hairstyling, because there's nothing really obvious about it. Yes, it's sort of period accurate, but there's nothing really outstanding in your face in terms of, wow, that's amazing makeup in the film. It's sort of just natural and doesn't draw too much attention to itself, and that's the kind of makeup I'm not sure will maybe want to be celebrated at the Academy. But if the film is so well liked, it will sort of bleed in and sort of get carried into a couple of these technical categories. But a film that, speaking of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, my first pick for production design is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because that is noticeable, because they took regular LA today and transformed it into this 69 Los Angeles. And you have recognizable places too, and film places that a lot of the people in the Academy recognize, whether it be Sunset Strip, that wow, they made it look just like 69, incredible. Or they'll say, oh, remember Spawn Ranch, it looks just like that. Or even just the Warner Brothers lot. There's these recognizable locations that they've transformed, which will really appeal to people. It's about a film, so it will, and LA and the Hollywood industry, so it was definitely a film that people in the Academy will resonate with. It's a Best Picture contender. It has these recognizable locations. For me, that just makes it an automatic lock. My next pick is similar in a lot of ways, which is The Irishman, another Best Picture contender, another sort of period film, which really helps in these categories. It's a film that has epic proportions in multiple different locations, in multiple different cities. Of course, you have sort of the Jimmy Hoffa rallies, and then you have the mafia bars and sort of the details within there. There's a lot of detail going in here. People do like Martin Scorsese and his sort of technical films and big films, whether it be The Aviator or Hugo. They do get nominated for production design, and I expect that a period film like this to also be nominated. My next pick is going to be Parasite. This is because it's a serious Best Picture contender now, and I think that if it is going to be potential Best Picture contender, this is maybe a category that it could win in. And if you have to watch on Oscar night, if you're really thinking that this is a movie that can win Best Picture, it needs to get more than 2 nominations for writing and foreign film and Best Picture. Also has to get in for Best Director. Also has to surprise maybe Song Kang-ho and getting in for something like a production design here. And personally, it's one of my favorite production design movies of the year, because so much of the visual nuggets about the class and the theme of the movie are embedded within the production design. That's all I'll say. But if you know the movie, the incredible house, of course the backyard, the little things that they do throughout the movie that interact with the house, it's really incredible. And the design of the movie is really a forefront reason why I think people like it, whether they realize it or not. Ultimately, I do think it's going to get nominated, and it was a great sign to see it actually get nominated at the Art Directors Guild, which shows the sign that people also agree that this is an incredible design film. My next pick, and also sort of incredibly designed film in terms of its complication, was 1917. Now, this is filmed to make it seem like it's done completely in one take. However, instead of something like a Birdman, which is done indoors, interior, which is much easier to control. You're doing it outside, so you have to worry about the weather and where the sun is and make the continuity all stay together. And you're essentially moving from one set to another, all outside, built on this incredibly massive field. But say you're moving from one set to another, and then you want to turn the camera the other way. Well, now you see the other set in the background, and sometimes that doesn't make sense. Sometimes you don't have a lot of room, so you have to take down sets while you're in another set because you're trying to do it in one take. It seems like a massive headache. It's something that I think a lot of people will appreciate. Of course, you have a lot of filmmakers backing this film and really saying how incredibly hard this was, whether it be Brad Bird or Steven Spielberg. A lot of people are advocating for this movie, and I think that in some of these technical categories, war films do well as well. If you have something like Dunkirk, which got nominated here, War Horse got nominated here, Mad Max won in this category. So even though it's taking place outside and it's not sort of on a studio lot and a set, it is very much still going to be, I think, appreciated because of the complexity of the film that it took actually to make the film. And my final nomination is going to be Jojo Rabbit. This is a movie that's sort of been hard to judge these last couple of weeks. But we do know that it's still a Best Picture contender. It's heavily liked by SAG. It got the TIFF People's Choice Award. It's still a movie that people like. And it also got nominated at the Art Directors Guild. It's a period movie, so that sort of pushes it over the edge. Oftentimes, the visual storytelling is done through the production design. Nazi Germany is a place that a lot of people know based on history of film. There's many World War II movies, and it's the way the sort of story progresses, where as Germany is closing in, the house is the standpoint of Jojo, but then sort of the outsides, and once he goes outside the house, that sort of changes depending on how the film progresses. So I think that this is a film that is still liked and will still ultimately get that sort of technical love. It also got the Art Directors Guild. I still sort of believe in it enough that the actors and some of the people that do appreciate the movie will sort of push that over the edge, because it's a movie that maybe you don't love, maybe you don't like, but a lot of people do love, and it's that passion that really helps in terms of the Oscar nominations, of just people rating it #1 and really pushing for this film and really wanting to get in instead of being sort of mixed on it, and then maybe you don't even vote, or maybe you go, oh yeah, I guess Jojo Rabbit was okay. It still has enough of a prestige production to I think get that nomination. And my first possible contender is Little Women. I really don't know what to do with this movie now. This used to be maybe a slam dunk for a nomination, even possibly a win. But for some reason, it didn't get in for the Art Directors Guild, which was mind-boggling. And it doesn't make sense that, oh, it was screened later, they haven't seen it. Because 1917 got in at the Art Directors Guild, so they actually had seen it. They decided not to nominate, or maybe they haven't seen it. And with this short Oscar season, that's really going to hurt this film. Maybe it is get in, but maybe just Little Women is just not that well liked. Maybe it doesn't resonate with the male members of the Academy, and that's a huge portion that we have to factor in, and maybe come Oscar night, or maybe it doesn't look very well at the BAFTAs, and you want to push it over the edge, but not getting at the Art Directors Guild really hurts it, and right now it's still on that edge for me. Then I also have Joker. I think for a lot of the reason you like that movie is because it looks like 70s New York. It looks like Taxi Driver, and that's a lot of ways to how it's designed, whether it be the Murray Franklin Show, or Arthur's apartment, or the opening scene where he's with his therapist, and how it's so clustered and there's piles of papers and it's so tight and sort of claustrophobic. I think that a lot of people will appreciate how it's done, and this is a film that is well liked technically and within the technical guild, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this sneaks in here. I don't have a production design, I don't have it for costume design, I'm sort of leaving it on the edge, but there's still a possibility where it gets in for both. That's how competitive these categories are this year. But speaking of which, jumping over to costume design, my first pick is going to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is similar to costume design in a lot of ways, where production design, I felt that it's probably going to win production design. I don't feel super confident that it's going to win costume design, but I do feel confident enough that it's going to get nominated, just because it, like I said at the top of the show, it has been doing so well at the Globes. It has been sort of well appreciated, and it has these sort of iconic costumes, whether it be sort of Cliff's half shirt, or Leonardo DiCaprio, his set of being a cowboy on the film, versus sort of his personal set, his personal costume, or that sort of all brown leather jacket. I think those are some iconic moments, or even just Sharon Tate's sort of classic outfit. There are certain elements that what the movie does so well is that it feels just like 60s Los Angeles, and a lot of that has to do with the fashion and the cars and everything that has to do with that. So I think the costumes and how it was dressed, people really appreciate that. And even if something like, you know, Bruce Lee comes in, Quentin is known for his sort of great costumes, whether it be, you know, Kill Bill, that's so iconic, or even something like Hateful Eight with the amount of designs and the big sort of jackets in that film that I'm thinking about. So I think people will appreciate that in terms of his past work, and also into this movie in terms of transporting them back into 60s LA. My next pick is going to be Rocketman, which very much could win this one, actually. This is not just rocker costumes like it is for something like a Bohemian Rhapsody. Elton John was known for these theatrical, rhinestoned baseball outfits, or in the AA, he's not wearing just normal clothes at the opening scene. He's wearing this incredible big orange horn thing, which is very noticeable. He has many costume changes throughout the film, and they're always theatrical and they're always period accurate to what Elton has worn throughout his years. So that seems sort of like a slam dunk. Also got in at the Guilds. My next pick is going to be Dolemite Is My Name. This is from costume designer Ruth E. Carter, who I predicted correctly last year to win for Black Panther. She's a costume designer who's been nominated multiple times before. Of course, won last year. She does these really kick-ass blaxploitation costumes, whether they be the costume changes that are going on in the making of the film that the film is, you know, documenting, or it's actually the premiere outfits, or sort of the 70s extravagant, colorful outfits that they wear when they're not making the movie and try to promote the movie. There's just a lot of that, and really noticeable, and a lot of costumes and colorful costumes, and I think Ruthie Carter will sort of take the momentum she got last year from Black Panther and sort of support and sort of build enough momentum so that Dolemite gets in here. My next pick is going to be Little Woman. You know, during my Clear Frontrunners episode, I said this was a lock for a nomination and a win, and now it's in my 4th slot. What happened? I don't know. I mean, I really thought this movie was going to be a Best Picture contender, but right now it doesn't seem like that. It's really falling. But you know, if it doesn't get in here, it won't get in anywhere. I mean, every year they do like their big poofy dress movie, whether it be Phantom Thread or Anna Karenina or The Danish Girl. These types of movies still get in. You know, Jacqueline Duran has been nominated multiple times before, whether it be something like Anna Karenina or Mr. Turner. You know, these are movies that have gotten a couple of other nominations but weren't Best Picture contenders, but still got in for Best Costume Design. So that really helps it. And, you know, it just seems like a slam dunk to get nominated. If it doesn't get nominated here, like I said, it could win in this category if it does very well at the Oscars, but if it does get nominated here, Little Woman has no chance, of course. But still, even if this wasn't the Best Picture contender, even if this was middling reviews, I still think it would have gotten in here because of just the type of movie that it is that the others really can't compete with, and this is sort of a certain type of costume that they really like and they oftentimes reward. I still think it's going to get in for costume design. And then my final pick, I was sort of debating between a couple of things. I ultimately went with Jojo Rabbit because I found something interesting with the overlap between production design and costume design nominations. That oftentimes, if you get nominated for production design, you also get nominated for costume design. That there is a little bit of an overlap in terms of the films that get nominated for each category. So I went through the past 10 years and I gave some look through and looked at all the amount of sort of overlap. So I have the 10 years here and the numbers, so I'm going to read them out year by year of how many films overlapped in terms of, you know, if Dunkirk gets nominated for Best Costume Design and Best Production Design, for example, that's 1, you know, out of the 5 nominees. So in 2018, there was 3 out of 5 overlap. 2017, 3 out of 5. 2016, 2 out of 5. 2015, 3 out of 5. 2014, 3 out of 5. 2013, 3 out of 5. 2012, 3 out of 5. 2011, 2 out of 5, and 2010, 3 out of 5. So I went with Jojo and not, say, a Downton Abbey or a Judy, because this is a film that talks about costumes a lot. You know, there's oftentimes, you know, what your uniform is and what you're wearing, or changes to the uniform, and there's sort of a great sort of third act payoff about, you know, a costume, which is really fun. So I think that, you know, people will remember that. If you like the movie, that has a costume element that is obvious there. But also because I have it in for Best Production Design. Now, if you have Joker in for both, or you have Little Women in for both, or you have even something like The Irishman in for both, you know, as long as there's sort of 2 or 3, most of the times these categories do line up. So if you're sort of like me and you look at them and only Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is your only commonality, or even you only have 2 commonalities like I do, maybe you want to look at that third, because oftentimes they do sort of collaborate. I mean, oftentimes the costume design and the production design are so intermingled that people oftentimes find it difficult to separate the two. So keep that in mind. As of right now, I have 2 out of 5. I still feel confident in that because there has been a couple of 2 out of 5 years, Most of the time 3 out of 5 though, so just be aware of that element that I had discovered. But still, I still feel confident in Jojo Rabbit in terms of at least costume design because of how sort of dominant the costumes are within the film, and that's, you know, something I've gained from watching the film, of course. And then my possible contenders, I also have The Irishman, which is done by legendary costume designer Sandy Powell. She's been nominated 14 times, she's won 3 times, she's well beloved, but the costumes just aren't flashy enough for me to think get it nominated. And then you have Downton Abbey, which is really an unknown factor. I think this maybe fits into the Little Women slot, where it has these sort of big, poofy, traditional, classy dresses in a lot of ways. But, you know, Downton Abbey is a series that was always loved by the Screen Actors Guild, yet it didn't get any nominations. It didn't get film ensemble. The film did. It didn't get film ensemble. It didn't get, you know, someone thought, you know, maybe an actor, possibly. So, you know, Maggie Smith or someone, that didn't happen, so I think that the film overall is not as well supported by the industry as we think it is, so I think right now I'm betting on Little Women to be the big poofy dress of the year. But that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your predictions down below, and what sort of Christmas movies you're going to be seeing over the holidays, what your hot take on Rise of Skywalker is, all that stuff. I want to create a great film community in the comments down below. And also, if you want to sort of skip around, I know this is at the end of the video, but all my videos have these timestamps in the description, so you can skip around, so you can always come back and, oh, what was Connor's thoughts on Little Women for costume design? Just go in the video, check the description, click on the timestamp, and you'll be taken right to the portion of the video where I talk about that. But I still encourage you, of course, to watch the whole video, so you get my sort of full experience of knowing every single category and my takes on them. But that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for next week as we really get into the Oscar heat of the battle, as we get closer and closer to the, you know, Golden Globes are happening soon, and the Oscar nominations are happening soon, and all these guilds and PGA and DJ we haven't heard back from, and I'm going to get my predictions for those. There's just so much going on, so stay tuned so you never miss a video. That's about it, guys. Until next time, stay tuned.